Welcome, dear students. In this course, you will be learning some basic skills about how to make best use of your time and what skills and techniques you should be learning and using in order to improve your knowledge and understanding. So first of all, today I'll be guiding you about how you should be attending your class lectures or discussions, especially when you are not in direct contact with your teachers. It is very useful for you to follow certain strategies to make the best use of your time. So today I'll be talking about how to learn from a class lecture or discussion. The purpose of this discussion is to give you a comprehensive overview of certain techniques which are very useful for students, especially for beginners. Now, I have divided these techniques into three phases. The first is pre-reading phase, something that you need to do before you attend a lecture or watch a recorded discussion. The second, during lecture participation, what you need to do while you are attending a discussion. And finally, post lecture responsibility, what you should be doing after you attend your lecture. So first of all, pre-reading activity. Now, pre-reading activity means that once you are familiar with the courses that you are studying and you develop some idea of what the course, a certain course is about, or sometimes the teacher might ask you to read something before the next class. So what you need to do is read what you think or what is recommended by the teacher and is certainly related to your upcoming discussion. Now, this pre-reading activity, reading before the discussion on that topic, will allow you to understand a few things on your own. And once you go through a piece of writing, you can easily identify things which are confusing or complex. So when the discussion takes place and the teacher is available, you can put forward your questions and confusions, you can share your comments, and then he can guide you accordingly. The second phase is during lecture participation. So while you attend a lecture, remember that attending a lecture or listening to a discussion is similar to reading with your ears. See, reading with your ears means that you should be paying full attention to what the teacher is discussing. So one reading is done with your eyes, but another is done with your ears, with your attention. So if you read something but you do not pay attention to it, obviously you are not going to learn anything. And in case of recorded lectures and discussions, this becomes extremely important. And if you ignore this aspect, you are very much likely to lose So these are, a few things which you should be doing. For instance, in face-to-face interaction with your teacher, you can ask your questions, and it is very easy if you have done your pre-reading activity. Secondly, you can make a comment after going through that text or reading about that topic. You must have developed your own understanding and your own opinion. So you can share your ideas and comments with the teacher in order to comment on them. Whether the ideas, the response that you have developed is convincing, logically sound, and can be, somehow used for more discussion, for future discussion. Now, sharing your comments with the teacher enhances your confidence. It makes you realize that slowly and gradually you will be able to develop more mature understanding. Similarly, another thing that is very important while you are attending a lecture or discussion, even if it is a recorded one, is taking notes. While you listen to a lecture, take down important ideas, write down what you think is going to be useful for you. Now, taking notes is a strategy that will help you in many ways. You can easily jot down the most important ideas and can easily remember them. And when it comes to your preparation for exams, assignments, presentations, you can simply go through your notes and you have everything on your fingertips. The third phase is post-lecture responsibility. What you should be doing after the lecture is done. Now, first thing that you need to do is reflect after the lecture. Try to recall the whole discussion, your own ideas, how the teacher discussed the topic, and what was the conclusion. So it is very much like going back in time and allowing yourself to visualize and recall everything that happened in the classroom. Now, this is a trick that sharpens your memory and enhances your understanding. Sometimes after reflection, you might be able to identify a certain point that did not occur to you or the teacher during the discussion. So in the next discussion, you can share your point. And equally importantly, write a summary of the discussion, because now this topic is complete. So you should write down a summary of the whole discussion for your own understanding. And as I said earlier, these notes are very useful but mostly ignored by students, and certainly they have to pay a heavy price for their negligence. See, taking notes is a golden rule that you should be following as long as you have the thirst for knowledge and understanding. If you simply want to attend a lecture or discussion and then don't care about it, obviously taking notes is not for you. But if you think that the time you are spending is worthwhile, is precious, and you should be learning things, you should be gaining knowledge, taking notes is something that you cannot avoid. Now let's move on. Here I want to discuss a few things that are very beneficial for you while you read different things. See, so far what I have discussed is generally applicable to any subject, but now I want to focus on how you as students of literature are supposed to read and what you actually read for, what you should be aiming at through your reading. And this is what we call interpretation of a text, or in simple words, critical reading. Now, first of all, let me here briefly explain what interpretation of a text means, or what interpretation means. Now, interpretation means after reading, you should try to develop your own mature response about what you have read. In simple words, this mature response is what we usually call interpretation or critical reading. If you are able to or in order to simplify it even more, we can say close reading, deep understanding of something that allows you to develop your own logically sound, backed by evidence opinion is what we call interpretation. Now, if I try to explain it in a different way, I can say you should try to look for something in the text that illuminates your view, your understanding. And interpretation is not something that is easily detectable, that is easily found in the text, that is obvious. Rather, you should try to develop deeper understanding, and then your mature response based on that deeper understanding is interpretation. So, do not simply rely on the facts and figures given in the story. Rather, try to make sense of how different characters interact with each other, how the action unfolds, how it progresses, how certain characters are introduced and then developed, how different parts of the book are organized, and why they are organized in this way, what is the significance of bringing two events in a certain sequence. Similarly, you can think about all the aspects of the text. Basically, and this is another important discussion in literature and needs a lot of time, but I will simply brief you about the most commonly analyzed aspects of literature. So, mostly we focus on characters, themes, style and structure of the text. So, these four aspects are the four major pillars of any piece of literature. Now, when we are interpreting a text, when we are developing our own critical response to a text, there is always a danger that your preconceived ideas will somehow affect your reading and your interpretation of the text. Now, preconceived ideas mean that you have your own ideology your own approach towards life, your own views about different aspects of life. So when you read a story, when you read a piece of literature, you somehow bring your own ideas to bear on the text, which means you somehow interpret the text not based on what it actually says, rather what you actually think about those aspects. So you simply relate your own ideas to the text. So try to somehow be very conscious about the reading process, because what is not in the text does not exist for the reader. Now this is one way of looking at it. Try to interpret the text on the basis of its own aspects, its own contents, instead of bringing something from the outside and then somehow relating it to the text itself. So while reading, try to look at the diversity of ways the writers approach the world. So try to look at the kind of themes, characters they have explored, and what the story somehow portrays about life. Another thing that is important for a reader is the element of intertextuality. Now, intertextuality means that when you read a text, the writers use ideas from different fields of life, from other works of literature, and similarly other fields of study. So you should be very careful about how the writer is drawing on different events, ideas, works of other writers, and then building his or her story on them. So intertextuality is how the writers make use of materials from other people. So a text does not stand on its own, rather it stands in relation to other texts. So I do not want to make it more complex for you. You should be simply looking at different references to movies, short stories, poems, myths that the writer has incorporated, and how these fit into the text as a whole. For example, in literature we have a lot of references to Greek and Roman literature, especially to Greek myths. So the writers make use of those myths to explore a certain idea. So as a reader, you should be conscious of the style of the writer, how he is creating meanings by different techniques. In the end, I want to conclude this discussion by warning you about misreading. See, sometimes people are confused about their own response and its validity on a certain piece of literature. So in order to avoid misreading, what you should do is notice carefully all the clues contained in a literary piece. So as I said earlier, try to make yourself a fair an unbiased reader. Try not to bring your own ideas and somehow impose them on the text. Rather, interpret the text on the basis of what it provides you as a reader. So, misreading most of the time happens due to the carelessness of the reader, when he does not differentiate where the text ends and his own ideas start intruding it. So, you should try to be conscious about the reading process and develop your own mature understanding based on different aspects of the text. So, do not try to move out of it, do not try to bring anything from the outside world into it. So, this is all for today's discussion. I hope you will be listening to this discussion carefully and learning these skills and then applying them in your own reading. Thank you very much.